Welcome to another Railfan Dan production. Enjoy this short intro. This is a pretty special and unique video featuring maintenance work on the Klamath Northern Railway, including ballast dumping, tamper work, and more. We are south of Gilchrist, Oregon on the Klamath Northern, starting the day right off with some ballast dumping. The Klamath Northern is using their GE SL 144 locomotive number 207 for power, which is their sole unit. The maintenance is being done by crews and equipment from the Albany and Eastern Railroad of Lebanon, Oregon. They own these ballast cars. The crew member in the orange hard hat is Luke, who's a friend of mine. Subscribe and hit that bell to stay up to date with new videos. Here's a shot from the ground with some audio. Sean is another good friend of mine who is running the tamper here. He spends time working on sections of the track when the train is in other locations. Here, he is pulling onto this siding to let them pass. Luke steps off the locomotive to throw the switch once Sean is clear. They continue south to keep dumping in the main location they've left off from the previous day. This whole track project was weeks worth of work. All of the footage from this video is anywhere between about 5 miles south of Gilchrist, so I won't be getting too specific with locations. There isn't much to get specific about within those 5 miles. Some history on the line. The Klamath Northern is about a 10-mile short line operating from Gilchrist to Gilchrist Junction, Oregon, where it connects with the Union Pacific. It was built in 1937 and 1938 by the Gilchrist Timber Company and was purchased by the Klamath Northern in 1940. It is operated by the Gilchrist Forest Products Mill, which today is owned by Nyman Enterprises. This GE SL 144 has served its whole life here. It was built new in 1982 for the Klamath Northern. Only 26 of them were built. Continuing to dump ballast now with Luke in the orange hard hat working the ground. He had asked that I get some footage of him at work, so I spent quite a bit of time with the camera on him. He also let the rest of the crew know it was just a railfan who was filming so they wouldn't get suspicious of someone spying with a drone. Now we catch up with my other buddy Sean, who was working the tamper a bit closer to Gilchrist. A tamper is a self-propelled rail vehicle used to pack ballast under the ties. Pretty cool to watch one of these working up close. It too is owned by the Albany and Eastern. I took some ground video as well to capture the audio, even though it isn't the most pleasing sound. I try to get the whole experience for you fans. Catching back up with the train again after just being loaded with some more ballast at the Gilchrist mill site. They loaded quite a number of times each day, and we will look at that operation in a bit. Right here is actually the small town of Crescent, which borders right up against Gilchrist just to the north. They are crossing the Crescent Cutoff Road here, with the Little Deschutes River also in view. These ballast cars have been cut short from the top, which is why they might look weird. This had to be done for transportation purposes. They were transported up here by road from Lebanon. now beginning to dump another load, for the most part dumping the entirety of both cars as the train slow rolls and picking up from where they left off once loaded up another time. Heading back for another load once again, they would do this about 7 times in one day at this point, but becoming less and less the farther out they had to run from the loading site. The dramatic Mount Thielsen can be seen about 28 miles in the distance to the south. Some other mountains to note here are Cowhorn Mountain, Odell Butte, and Diamond Peak. Now approaching the Gilchrist Mill and the small rail yard for the Klamath Northern, which is also where the ballast loading is taking place. Capturing the loading process was my favorite part of the day, being something I've never caught on camera or witnessed myself. I thought it was a pretty fun and dynamic thing to watch. This 844J loader is owned by the Rick Franklin Corporation, which is the parent company of the Albany and Eastern Railroad, also based in Lebanon, Oregon. Currently, the Klamath Northern only ships lumber on center beam cars, but in the past have shipped out chip loads as well. All loaded up and ready to head out for another dump. The Klamath Northern is one that has been on my list to film for years. I never imagined a scenario like this would be the first time I captured them. Someday I hope to film an actual revenue run, but that seems to be only about once a week. These power lines that follow the tracks are a blessing and a curse, especially using a drone. It's nice to have an open view of the line, but watch out for those wires. Now dumping again. I was told that this is the first time this line has ever had rock dumped on it. I was also told that most of the line still uses a lot of the original rail. There was also a ballast regulator out here working the ballast, but I failed to get any action of it. Now I regret not taking some time to do that. It too is owned by the Albany and Eastern. Heading back now to get loaded up again. I called it quits for the day shortly after this. I felt like anything more I would film would be pretty repetitive. One last shot here after being loaded up again at the siding a little south of Gilchrist where the tamper was sitting. I hope you enjoyed this special production of the Klamath Northern. It was even more fun for me being able to capture some of my friends at work.